Alright, so Sidakov's hand fight is pretty simple. He's got a few things he does with his left, a few things he does with his right, and then they all set up attacks to both sides of the opponent's body. But his home base position is left hand collar tie, right hand wrist. Alright, everything comes out of this and loops back to this position. So everything he does in his hand fight is either from this position or getting back to this position to set something else up. All right, so first thing we're going to look at is his left hand. All right, if he's got his left hand established on collar tie, he's going to look to pull the guy's head over and over and over again. So here we see him pulling the guy's head down, get him off balance, get him a little bit tired later on. All right, now his first hand fight skill. All right, if he feels uncomfortable in his collar tie, maybe he's too close or he's too far or just something doesn't feel right about his position, he's going to drop his collar tie hand off. All right, so here we see him drop his collar tie hand off. It's a little too close for his spacing that he likes, I would imagine. All right, so since it's close, he goes into over tie and is able to get a good bite on his opponent's head. And he's going to look to over tie snap to reset his collar tie. So he over tie snaps, right back to left hand collar tie. All right. Then we're going to see he drops his hand out again. He gets a good bite on the collar on his over tie, so he's going to be able to snap again. Now some things to notice on his snap. He typically splits his feet, similar to his split step attack, to level change a little bit and generate some power through his snap. The other thing he's going to do is always drop his head below his opponent's every time he snaps to protect his legs and to generate some power. Once he over tie snaps, he's right back to left hand collar tie. Goes back into it, snap, back into left hand collar tie. So that's his first hand fight skill. He has left hand collar tie. If he feels like the spacing's too close or he wants to set something up later in the match, he'll drop it out, go over tie, and then over tie snap to reset back to his left hand collar tie. All right, before we move on to this next clip, just take a look at the time. It's about 37 seconds in to this match, and he's already over tie snapped this guy 3 times. All right, so this guy's gonna get used to his hand coming over top over and over and over again. So here, same match. All right, the time is 2:41, so it's already a period and 20 seconds in. We're gonna see him drop his hand out, and by now the guy's used to his hand coming over top. And so he either expects a snap or for him to try to fight back inside to his collar tie, whatever. But instead, hand over top, he's going to look to swim and attack high crotch. Here we're going to see a similar thing. All right, he goes collar tie. Opponent's going to fight inside. Sidakov's on his over tie, pull, and then attack. This is really nice. So here we see opponent fight his elbow inside to get his own collar tie. So Sidakov goes over tie, and it's going to be very similar motions as a snap. So we see him start to pull head down, his feet split, and he level changes just like on a snap, but instead of dropping all the way to reset, he split steps into a high crotch. So over tie snap's great for when he's really close. The guy's clamping tight on his collar tie, and there's not a lot of space between their shoulders right here. All right, so when there is space, he's got a different option to reset his collar tie. So here we see the opponent kind of pushing off his shoulder, keeping space. He's trying to get a bite on his over tie, but his arm's just too long to get any kind of good snap out of here. So instead what he's going to do, Sidakov's going to use his right hand and he's gonna reach it up and across to his opponent's wrist, right there. He's gonna reach it up and across, just cross grab, take it off, and then reset right back to his left hand collar tie. So when there's space, too much to get a good snap on his over tie, he'll instead clear by cross grabbing that wrist off and then resetting his collar tie. So here's another example. He's left hand collar. Now we can see he's kind of creating the space here. He's kind of pushing off his opponent's shoulder. Maybe he just felt out of position, kind of reset a little bit of space. All right, so we see lots of space between. Right hand's gonna reach up, look to grab wrist, take it off, and then left hand's gonna come right back up to collar tie. Now, just like his over tie snap, if he does it a bunch, they're gonna get used to his hand coming up and over, and then he can look to attack out of there. Same with his cross grab. So they're pretty close here. Gonna see some space get created when he comes over tie. All right, so I would imagine if they were to stay this distance, he would probably over tie snap to reset his collar tie. But we see Burroughs create a little bit of space, and we see Sidakov's right hand come up and across to the wrist. He's gonna come up and across. Now, instead of cross grab clearing to reset his collar tie, he just touches it, because he's likely done it a couple times that match already, and they get used to it. Touches it, and then instead of clearing, he looks to attack right in on his high C. The only other thing Sidakov does with his left hand, other than over tie snap or cross grab to reset to his collar tie, the only other position he ever puts it in is elbow control. So here we see him start in an over tie. All right. Now his hand rotates to elbow control. Now every time I see him rotate to this kind of elbow control, he is always looking to ankle anchor attack. And the reason I call it ankle anchor is because it's like an ankle pick, but he's not traditional collar tie dropping to pick. He's left hand elbow control, and his left hand is going to drop and anchor on this guy's ankle. Here we're going to see it again. Rotates off to elbow control. Gets his opponent swayed on that foot. Crunches him down, pretty similar to an ankle pick. Like as he level changes, his opponent level changes with him, getting his head close to his knee. Hand's going to drop off. Anchor on his ankle, hence ankle anchor. And then slide up and in to his high crouch position. Okay, now let's talk about his right hand. His right hand is always looking for wrist control. And it's actually not, so here we see them fighting back and forth, trying to grab each other's wrist. So once he gains wrist control, it's not even about getting wrist control. It's about making the opponent not want you to control their wrist and making them reach. All right, so his home base for his right hand is trying to get wrist control. All right, so here, a couple ways to do it. He can just reach out and grab it like we saw in the first one. Here, his opponent's hand is high and on him, so he's just gonna reach up and then wrist roll it down. So he just reaches up, grabs, and rolls it down to the inside, clears it off. So last clip, guy had shoulder post. This guy's got collar tie. He's gonna do the same thing. Reach up, grab wrist, and then roll it off. And it leads into his underhook pretty well when guys reach. All right, so again, it's not about having wrist control. It's mostly about making the guy reach to a bad spot so he can use his right hand on one of the two attacks he does with his right hand. Here we see him get that underhook. Here, same thing. Battling for wrist control a little bit. All right. So here, as he reaches up and rolls it down, he's gonna pull him right into his underhook. And then one of his attacks off here is throw by single leg. All right, so this wrist fight is literally just to get them to reach. All right. He can also get to his hook off opponent's collar tie. All right, so his right hand has 3 places: wrist control, underhook, or over top like snake, or I think some people call it crowbar, whatever, over top arm snake for like slide by position. All right, so here his opponent has collar tie, slips into his underhook, and then pressures him through the edge. All right. So here we're going to see the other position. So it's either wrist, underhook, or this over top arm snake position. That's what I'm going to call it, I guess. I don't know. If anybody has a better name, feel free to let me know. All right, so again, back to wrist fighting, trying to make the guy reach. Left hand collar. Now comes over top to this arm snake position, setting up his famous slide by. All right, here we're going to see a similar thing. So again, it's either wrist, hook, or snake. All right. So here he's going to let the opponent have collar tie. We're going to see him try to punch his hook in. Opponent's going to fight his elbow back inside, which is a great time to come over top and look to slide by. So he's still, I don't even know if he's trying to get his hook really. He's at least acting like he is. Comes hand right over top, back to hook. This opponent's elbow is way across. All right, so as he comes back over, easy right into his slide by.